At the last IFRP conference call, we were discussing the agenda, and on day 2, Tom Schultz and Brad Smith are going to be presenting a topic, measuring success, and I agreed on the conference call to help provide some background information for that topic. And I struggled with how this would work over a conference call, so instead I've put together this brief narrated slideshow to provide some information that I'm hoping will help prepare that topic. The emphasis on the measuring success for shared stewardship is a forest restoration perspective, which I think is appropriate for the Idaho collaborative groups. So first, let's begin with public lands and what we all know are currently doing. I've organized this in terms of 3 scales. I think the Forest Service and the collaborative groups are well aware that there are 3 scales of monitoring and reporting, and using those data sources as a way to report success. So first of all, forest plan is the broadest. Based on the 2012 planning rule, the forests have biennial reporting primarily focused on progress towards the plan's definition of desired conditions. Scale number 2, we have 3 CFLR landscapes within the state of Idaho. Each of those landscapes has an annual report with up to 27 metrics. In addition to those annual reports, there was a 5-year report that emphasized ecological indicators. And then probably the more common one known to the 10 collaborative groups is at the NEPA project level. We have over 40 projects in Idaho that have been supported by collaborative groups. Typically, those projects are designed to incorporate the goals of the respective collaborative group, and the monitoring and reporting examines both implementation, did the forest do what it proposed to do in the record of decision, and secondly, effectiveness, did the outcome of those treatments achieve the desired product. Now comes the recently announced outcome-based investment strategy of the Forest Service, and highlighting in bullet form here some of the main objectives. Determining management needs on a state level rather than a forest or project level. Achieve cross-boundary outcomes desired by all. The second objective, doing the right work in the right places at the right time. And third, using all available tools for active management. Well, how do we define restoration outcomes for a shared stewardship strategy? I think it's helpful to reflect on the Forest Service's restoration policy that they adopted in 2016. And in that policy, the definition for restoration is the process of assisting the recovery of an ecosystem that is degraded, damaged, or destroyed in comparison to a reference condition. So the key point here is the landscape outcome is a physical measure of change, not a fiscal or financial measure of change. So the wrinkles introduced with a shared stewardship strategy for measuring and reporting success is that we're addressing all lands across ownership boundaries. The scale, I think the appropriate scale shifts from a forest or a project level to the priority landscapes within the state identified in the state's forest action plan. And what I am suggesting here is that there are 2 very important restoration outcomes that are, I think, essential to the shared stewardship strategy, as well as maintaining collaborator engagement, and they're also feasible to implement. The first deals with vegetation and wildfire risk, and the second, watershed health. So vegetation and wildfire risk, I think, can be supported by a program within the Departments of Agriculture and Interior called the Landfire Program. This program was initiated by the secretaries of those two agencies, and its goal or its mission is to collect, analyze, and distribute wildfire-related information. One of those types of information that I think can contribute to shared stewardship is the vegetation condition classes. There are 6 of these. They are an indicator of the degree of departure of the current condition from historical fire regimes. And as far as I can tell, there is a 2014 baseline condition that covers the entire state. And the idea here is that the parties involved would support reporting acres using this data source in 2025 versus the baseline condition of 2014. The second, Watershed Health, I'm suggesting here that we consider incorporating or building upon the Watershed Condition Framework. This is a protocol that was adopted by the Forest Service nationwide and implemented in 2011. And Congress caught up in the 2018 Farm Bill with formal authorization to not only develop watershed restoration plans, but also implement them. The protocol works with 6th order watersheds and assigns each one a condition class. It follows kind of the traffic light color coding of green is functioning normally, yellow is at risk, and red is impaired. The baseline does exist in 2011, and in addition, the Forest Service in December of 2018 produced the national report on the status of progress towards improving these watersheds from 2011 through 2017. So in this context, I am suggesting that measuring success within the state of Idaho for shared stewardship would build on that framework and periodically report progress between the years 2019 and 2025. So comparing these two approaches to measuring success for the National Forest System, I think the monitoring and reporting continues regardless of what happens with shared stewardship. The collaborative groups within the state remain engaged in that process, and success continues to be monitored and reported at 3 scales: the forest, the CFLR landscape, and NEPA projects, regardless of whether the project is within a CFLR landscape or not. For shared stewardship, I'm offering the suggestion here that the parties commit to an all-lands reporting of restoration progress in 2 areas, and to make best use of existing resources, we build upon the existing data and reporting systems. And for vegetation, it's the vegetation condition class coming from the Wildfire program, and for watershed health, it's the watershed condition framework already implemented across the National Forest System. And the appropriate scale for this reporting and measuring of success is Idaho's priority landscapes. So again, this is just initial background for Tom and Brad to consider as they prepare their materials for the discussion on day 2 of the workshop.